Ward Connerly, A Nation of Equals, April 6, 1998, Harvard University. It's a great honor to be here in one of the nation's intellectual capitals. One of the two intellectual capitals, the other being my alma mater, American River Junior College. I never thought that I would be able to overcome the obstacles of being born in Leesville, Louisiana, orphaned at 4, and growing up in the Heights, Del Paso Heights, and being able to come here and visit with some of the best minds in the world to share a perspective. W.C. Fields often said, start each day with a laugh and get it over with. And it prompts me to remember the story of Gretchen Alexander as I talk about overcoming obstacles. And Gretchen Alexander was sightless, but she never let that stand in her way of enjoying life's experiences. She could play golf, swim, softball, great at archery, and she was lecturing one of her high school classes, and a student asked, "Is there anything you won't do?" And she said, "Yes, I won't skydive. It would scare the H out of my dog. So I'm not going to let any obstacles stand in my way." I want to get right to the introduction because candidly I have a problem with the introduction, with all due respect, Professor. And my problem with the introduction goes to the heart of what my reason for being in this whole movement is. And that is the presumption that my skin color should be relevant in public policy debate. It should not be relevant. And I mean no disrespect to him. He is positioning the issue the way the public seems to portray it. And that is somehow I am out of step from the black establishment because of the views that I hold. I would submit to you that if you find 50 black people, you will probably find 50 variations of opinions. It just seems that on some issues there's more coalescing around certain points of view than others. But I dare say you would not find any great differences between us than you would find amongst others on issues as well. And I really hope with every fiber of my being that I will live to see the day when the kind of introduction would be totally unnecessary, that no one would have to invoke the question of my race, whatever the H that is, or my skin color in relation to a position that I am espousing. That, my friends, is why I have taken upon myself to say to my nation, let's confront this, folks. Let's confront it, because you're putting me and others like me, and I don't mean 58 and bald, into a little box. You're herding us into a box, and the expectation is that we're going to stay within that box with respect to how we conduct ourselves. And all my life I have defied operating within the box. The question arises over and over again, why is this black man leading this effort to eliminate affirmative action in a state like California? Let me be kind of try to respond to this, throw away the script, and respond to you as candidly as I can why I, as a fellow American, have taken upon myself to converse with you, my fellow Americans, about an issue that I think goes to the core of who we are as a people. While we're here in the first place in time in this great nation trying to perfect this experiment we call democracy. People who have come here from different parts of the globe, some born here, different experiences, different cultures, different sexual orientation, disabilities, different races. However we define that, different ethnic backgrounds. How do we forge this? All these differences into one nation without divisible parts, without any presumptions about our abilities or the things to which we can aspire. How do we do this? I was sentenced to an unpaid 12-year term on the Board of Regents in 1993. And all my life prior to that time, I'd grown up believing in this American experiment that I just described to you. I believed as a political science student in those great 36 words of the Declaration of Independence, and you know them, about holding these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I grew up believing that. I believed in Lincoln when he talked about our founders bringing forth on this nation. I'm not giving you the actual words, you know them. Conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. I honestly believed that stuff. And as a young student in the 1960s, when the man after whom this great facility is named said on June 11, 1963, race has no place in American life and law, I believed that stuff. To the core of my being, I came away from that period and time believing, as Dr. King said, that this nation would live out the true meaning of its creed and treat me as an individual. Not judge me by what I am, but judge me by who I am. And if I'm a rotten scoundrel, judge me accordingly. But at least let me prove to you that I'm a rotten scoundrel rather than presuming that on the basis of some immutable traits. And so it was that, as a regent, when I discovered that the University of California was really using different standards to admit people. We were classifying them on the basis of whether they're African American or Chicano or Latino or American Indian or Asian or white. We're making people fill out these silly little boxes and saying, if you fill out this one of these are the numbers of points you get. If you fill out this one, these are the number of points that you get. Based on the system of values that I brought to the university as a regent, I thought, this is wrong. This is not what the experiment is. Son, you may disagree with me, but I felt that I had no choice but as a fiduciary of the Board of Regents to act according to that my beliefs that this is wrong. And so I proposed that the regents abolish the consideration of race. Now, this was not a precipitous move. I had looked at the evidence and saw that in 1989, the number of black students who had applied to the University of California was 2,191. In 1995, the number was about 2,191. The number of Asians that had applied in 1989 was about 8,000. The number of corresponding period was about 12,000. And so I thought something here is wrong. If the number of black students is flat over that period of time with affirmative action, and the number of Asian students is going up with all of our efforts basically to suppress their numbers because we didn't want Berkeley to become all Asians, something is wrong. And so it just seemed to me that if we as a university really want to do what's right, maybe we should think about a different way of doing this. Maybe we should really commit ourselves to finding out what's going on. Examine whether race is in fact one of many factors. And as I began to expose the reality of what was happening, I say to you that race was not one of many factors. That was a big lie. Race was the factor. So the choice that point was, do I go back into my shell as a regent and pretend that I never knew those facts, or do I proceed with what I think is right? The rest is history. Having done that, there was an immediate response, people saying we were going to resegregate the university. I knew differently because anyone who was admitted to the University of California was guaranteed then and is guaranteed now a seat at the University of California. It may not be Berkeley, it may not be San Diego or Davis or whatever, but no one is denied an opportunity on the basis of race if you're eligible for admission to the University of California. But there was a continuing outpouring from students and others who really were intent upon stirring up trouble than they were dealing with problems to rescind the vote. Every meeting there where students were protesting, rescind the vote, rescind the vote. And so the only way it seemed to me that I could guarantee that this principle of treating all of our students equally would manifest itself throughout history in the state of California would be to put it into the Constitution. And those 37 words are now, in fact, the Constitution of the state of California. The state shall not discriminate against or grant preferential treatment to any individual or group on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. Simple, direct, clear. No hidden mysteries about those words. They're in the Constitution of California. Now, this is just about eliminating preferences, however. It's about dealing with issue of race, still the unfinished business, social and legal of America. It's about race. It's about diversity, as we call it, students on campus. And I've been to like 25 in the last 3 months. We have the diversity on campus, but we don't have integration. Black students at Emory are just as isolated as if they were at Emory University. It's about people who are marrying. You know, Dr. King said he looked for the day when little black boys and little black girls would be holding hands. They're doing more than holding hands. They're getting married and raising families. But in too many parts of this nation, there are interracial couples who are still subjected to hostility, the stares. It's about confronting this. Leave them alone. Let them enjoy their lives without the intrusions of a society that is passing judgment. It's about people who happen to be gay, wanting to live their lives alone without people bothering them. And that's a sensitive subject, but I believe in equality. And if you believe in equality, you do not diminish the dignity of another human being. It's about dealing with those subjects of how we interact with our fellow man, and whether we're big enough to accept doing away with preferences, extending dignity to every person without passing judgment ourselves on the value of that person. And so I want to allow as much time as I can tonight for questions, because I think that really is where we can move this dialogue forward and move it up the field. But I want to leave you, as I provide my opening comments, with the essence of what this movement really is about. It's getting the American people, among them, to accept the proposition that if this experiment is going to work for none of us can expect any different treatment than anybody else. And none of us should tolerate any different treatment of another human being, because people who are not equal are not free. When your society forces you to check the box and decides whether you win or lose in the competitions of life on the basis of the box that you check, your freedom is diminished. Because today it might be you, tomorrow it might be you. That doesn't quite match up with the matrix. And if that's the kind of government we want, if that's the kind of society that we want, the experiment has failed. Let's call the game right now, because it's failed. It doesn't work. It will not work if any of our citizens are allowed to be treated differently by their government on the basis of traits with which they are born. Thank you.